pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll get started. Dave, do you have any questions on attendance?
Nope.
Does anybody have any additions or corrections to the board agenda?
I had both. I had an addition under employment. We had an employment adjustment that came through today. I added quite a bit to JAG Pride on Friday. So those are added. And then we had a couple more resolutions that were added for donated funds, one from Northview Bank and one from Petrie's. So those have been added.
And I would like to make an addition also. Since our last regular board meeting, we did receive a letter from the Minnesota State Patrol regarding our bus fleet inspections. And I feel like our board should discuss that. I do have a lot of questions myself, and our children's safety is at stake. And I think we should talk about it.
So Toby would need a second.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? The only thing I will say is that no, we can't talk about any staff.
We won't talk about any staff.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Now for the agenda approval with said change. I am looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move that.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is open forum, rules for open forum. There are 3 minutes per speaker. Open forum shall not take more than a total of 15 minutes. No complaints about individual staff members, about students, or about other persons are permitted. All presenters will conduct their business in a manner that meets community standards for decorum. The board will not take action on items presented in open forum. Did anybody say anything? Does anybody wish to speak during open forum?
I'm ready. I'm good.
Next up is the consent agenda. Brian, have you added any?
Yep, just the employment adjustment.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is the bills. If you have questions on the bills, please state the page number and the bill number. Does anybody have any questions tonight on the bills? If there are no questions on the bills, then I'm looking for a motion to approve the bills.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is the superintendent's report. Mr. Masterson.
Just some updates on meetings that are upcoming, both for myself and for committee meetings. We are to the point where we're ready to take signups or donations for the holiday breakfast. Recommended donations $20, whatever you feel comfortable with. But we're gonna set up on December 23rd by 6:30, be ready to serve around 7, and we are going to serve French toast. So let me know what you're able to help with, and we'll get you signed up. Next, I just shared our homeschool and private school numbers for this year. First column is those who go to Harvest Christian from our school district, our resident students, and then students who went to homeschool. We have seen quite an increase in homeschool. Some of that is because families who moved in may have been already homeschooling in the previous district they came from, but we have seen an increase in our homeschool numbers, and they are part of the families who I am calling as I'm going through the families who are no longer here in the district. Next, I just shared some more terminology. Since we're just talking about just some of the different terminology we use regarding some of our interventions, or just to keep you familiar when we're talking special transportation or Kinney-Vento, what that means, what that looks like, how that impacts us. From there, next, just sharing what our inclement weather plan would look like if we have that this winter. In our calendar, we built in 2 makeup days, so the first 2 times we have bad weather, we would just cancel school completely for students and staff. We would make up those days, and then from there we would move to e-learning. Our e-learning plan is very similar to what you've seen the last few years. High school students get their instruction off of Schoology and from emailing and connecting with teachers, and elementary students both at Finlayson and Hinckley Elementary use choice boards. And as we get going here into November, the elementary will update those choice boards on the website. And like I said, high school has their curriculum and information in Schoology. So looking at a very similar plan, I'll continue to text school board what the kind of decision is once I know that, and then we put it out to staff and community. Hopefully it only snows or is really cold on the weekends. So here's hoping for a good winter. Last, we talked about our CACR plan, Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness, last month. So this month it's the same exact thing I presented in October. This month, just looking for approval on our CACR plan so we can submit that to the state of Minnesota.
All right, Mr. Masterson is looking for a motion to approve the CACR plan.
I'll make the motion. A second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Does anybody have any questions regarding Mr. Masterson's report? All right, if not, we will move on to high school principal, Mr. Lattimore.
Good evening. November 10th, but the first thing that you see on this is the subject matters for the 26-27 school year. That's already being looked at for courses for next year. Some of the highlighted things, and I will be looking for an approval on this. Some of the additions to this year's Earth Science has moved to 9th grade, so that now reflects that. We're trying to set up our science college courses so that our juniors and seniors could have potentially 2 to maybe 4 college credits in science by the time they left here. So we're just trying to do every other year on those. So we're getting a more robust college experience here for the students in the school. Some revisions to English 11 and 12 that were brought forth by the English department. English elective. Civics is coming back next year as a requirement. Used to be a 9th grade course, now it'll be we're gonna start with an 11th grade course. It will be back in this, the standards for graduation starting next year. So that will be in for 11th grade, just the change of the name from construction to career geometry. The biology course syllabus has been updated. And senior strategies has been updated to reflect the new graduation requirement in personal finance. Personal finance is a new one that will be coming in next year that we will house in our senior strategies course. And then a social studies elective, history through games. Again, these are all proposals. Everything will be based on the the amount of students who enroll in those courses. So that's what we're looking for there. So the process, Ms. Katie Hardo will be registering students in early January. Classes will go out in December, January, so that they have them to look over. And then sometime January, February, we'll have those numbers for next year already. So I'll need approval on that when we're done. We did have our conferences back in October. 33 families attended for our fall conferences. Conferences were low, and it tends, again, something that we struggle with, and we are recognized and always looking for ideas and ways to boost attendance. Behavior data for October, the October data, 218 referrals. Of those, 169 were minor. 169 of those 169, 81 being technology violations, phones on students. So those are ones that we continue to be a challenge as we implement that new policy. I've put the data in there, what it looks like. And then as years go, I think you'll notice on that one there. Again, as I said, this year's technology has been a big one for us. So when you compare between last year and this year, the technology, like I said, 81 of them. A lot of field trips going on. We've had military in the building during lunch. Upcoming events, fall play is already this week, end of this week. And they've been working hard, so looking forward to seeing the students perform their play. Winter concert, it's already next month. I just put the spring and Pops concerts for the spring. Our quarter one honor roll recognition will be November 25th, that Tuesday right before Thanksgiving break. Just these past couple events, last Friday we had Rachel's Challenge here for all of our 10th grade students. And we had our Veterans Day concert in recognition on November 5th last week. And then I'll let these guys, Ms. Geiger and Mr. Osmus, give their report, and then I'll take questions.
As Mr. Lattimore already said, the fall play is this upcoming Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It is called The Other Side of Christmas. It's a play about what people don't always realize is happening behind the scenes during the Christmas season. So if you'd like to come out and watch, Mr. and Mrs. Richter Mr. Storm have been putting a lot of work into us kids and late nights at the school. So, yeah.
Sports-wise, we're in a bit of a dead zone. Sports like tomorrow when girls basketball starts. Wrestling starts tomorrow, is it?
Hockey
And
started last week.
oh, okay.
Girls hockey.
And then boys starts after that. Yeah. We had a lot of days off this last month. MEA, Deer Day. There might have been another one, I'm not really sure.
Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
I had AGS Halloween party. There's quite a few kids there.
It was a lot. It was very busy. It was very good. That's pretty much all we got.
I want to thank Haley, Grady, and Mr. Lattimore for their work they did on that school board candidate forum. Appreciate you guys doing that and getting that information out to our community. So thank all three of you.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Lattimore? Thank you, Grady and Haley,
I've got one.
or for the kids, I should say.
Mr. Lattimore, can you reinforce to the substitute teachers to enforce the phone policy? Okay,
Thank you.
I've got some questions too.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Joe, how many of the 218 are tardies?
Those, I think those fall under the attendance. So what I did is I just did the minor and the major for that 218. So attendance was not in that one. So I would have to look to see if tardies are a minor or if they fall under the attendance. So.
Okay, so tardies are not part of the 218 figure?
I don't believe so, but I will check on that.
Okay. And then also, how many unique students contributed to the 218 referrals?
It's like how many students received a referral?
How many unique students received a referral in the month of October?
Well,
What do you mean when you say unique? Just for my clarification.
How many different students got a referral? Whether it be one referral or more than one referral.
Okay.
well, we had 11% of our student population that had 2 or 6 or plus. So, or I'd say 11, 12%. So out of 353, 10, 35, 40 to 60 students. I'd have to go back in and look for that data.
Okay. Could you get back to me on the board on that?
I will have it in the board report for Brian this Friday.
Thank you. And then of the 218, 169 of those were minor infractions. How many were major infractions, or how many were considered other, not minor and not major infractions?
So the, when I put this one together, because I learned how to do this, so other was not in that categorization, so it was minor and major. So we went through and made sure that like, so our other, sometimes if we put other on there, it will pop up as not being like a major or a minor. So there's some things that we're going back into. So let's, for instance, when we do our referrals, if we're tracking some students who might be out of place, who we need data on, we'll put other in there. And that way we know that it's for tracking purposes and it's not like being counted in those, that data. So we had 218, so 169. 49 majors.
And of the 169 minors and 49 majors, how many after-school detentions resulted from that?
We did not have any after-school detentions this last month.
Zero. What kind of consequences did result from the 218 referrals, then, if there were no after-school detentions?
Conference with student for some of the minors, working with students to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. We've had new directions, we've had ISS, we've had OSS, out of school or in school, new directions. A lot of our minors go to the reflection room to start. So that's what we have done.
What about after, did you say lunch
We have
detention?
not had any after school detentions.
But we have had lunch detention though?
Correct.
Can you give me specific numbers?
Lunch detentions are usually what we're doing for our tardies.
Okay.
So that's what we're using for tardies. So if they get 3 to 5 tardies in a week, then they serve a lunch detention.
So do we have students committing more than one minor infraction, like a behavioral type thing in the classroom where they disrupt learning?
Do we have that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they can have multiple infractions where they disturb learning and they don't get after-school detention, is that right?
Yep.
So they might get multiple times in the reflection room then?
Yes.
Or they may move to new direction, or depending what it was, could be OSS, ISS, things like that.
How many students are getting new direction or in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension for October?
I'd have to go look and see about the specifics on the ISS and the OSS as a disposition.
Do you philosophically believe that after-school detention is not something we want to deal with or have in place?
Philosophically, usually the punishment or consequence needs to create a change. And what I saw from last year is the after-school detention did not create the desired change or effective change from what we used from last year. I had multiple kids that had after-school detention
How many did
Last
we
year.
have last year?
It was once a week from February on, something like that. So anywhere from 2 to 5 students per Tuesday.
The other part from my experience, including last year, because I helped supervise that, is we would have to pay staff to do that. It's not part of their duties or their contract. Mr. Lattimore is probably at least 4 days out of the week in a meeting after school, especially IEP meetings. So that historically has been hard to staff. The state does reimburse up to $18.50 an hour for a teacher to cover that. But that is much less than a teacher's hourly wage. So it is very hard to staff that. Plus, historically, most of the coaches are high school coaches. So they're going to practices and other things they're supervising. So that's one of the reasons back 5-10 years ago, we added New Direction, was to catch some of that. And on top of it, it's very hard to get parents here as we don't have an activity bus anymore. So that became even harder to get kids home without that activity bus.
So does our teacher's contract have anything in place for assigning monitors for after-school detention? Could you just unilaterally just assign that to the faculty?
That's part of their prep time. I'd have to pay them.
Well, of course, I feel they should be paid, but could we choose to pay a staff member to just rotate on a basis where we can cover after-school detention?
We can. The board could decide to do that. I would guess we wouldn't have a lot of volunteers, but we could.
Because I feel our behaviors are increasing. What do you feel, Joe? Do you feel our behaviors are improving or getting worse?
Well, when you talk about, climate, how the school feels.
Yes.
A lot of the things that I have heard is that it feels better than last year. So in terms of like how the days are going, what's going on in the school, things seem to be going in the right direction. They are better than last year.
But if you take the 81 technology violations, we didn't have technology violations last year, correct?
Unless it might have been a 7th or 8th grader, then they were few and far between.
Or they break a laptop
Okay.
or something like that.
So,
And really, sorry Jody, if you look at his data for October, 87% getting 0 to 1 referral, that's very good.
So last year there were no technology violations. A kid could.
The only technologies that we would have been in 7th and 8th grade, just because they were not allowed to have their phones on them. This year it's a school-wide 7 through 12, so.
So is technology only referring to cell phone violations?
For a lot of them, yeah, we haven't had a lot of like Chromebook damage would be another one, or like misuse of your Chromebook, like looking at things you're not supposed to look at, or doing things on there you're not supposed to be doing. We haven't had.
Like playing games?
Well, most of the games that are on there are like approved or appropriate, so if there's a time and place they can play them. Like a lot of the kids have their Chromebooks out at lunch and they're playing whatever game there is now. I don't know what the names of them are, but I see a lot of them playing games on their Chromebooks at lunch.
Are our minor and major infractions down year over year? And if you don't know the numbers, could you get them to me?
Yep.
Because when I factor in just the referrals, 218, and that does not include tardies. It's up 16.5% year over year. And if you factor in the amount of referrals per student, because we have less students this year than last year, the amount of referrals per student is actually up 32% year over year. And I consider that going backwards tremendously. That's a large number. It's a large increase.
I know we have a lot of students that we track that have 20 or 25. So we have a population of students that we track for like the others,
that would have 20 to 25, or they're getting, disruptive interruptions that we track with those that were up to 20, 25. So when you take 3 of those kids, that's 75 right there. So we do have some of those.
And if you take 218 from this year and subtract out our 81 technology violations, that's 137. Last year it was 187. I know tardies are not included, but I don't know that tardies are the difference of.
I don't think tardies
I
were
can't.
included last year at this point in the year either.
It's another big one that we've taken on this year as well.
But if we could get the data,
Yeah.
it would be helpful.
It's hard to like take into consideration too, like your first year compared to Ms. Hankey, just how things were collected and data was collected. There's a difference in there too, so.
There were lots of different ways where you'd have a spreadsheet for this. So like if, we were tracking a special education student who was like not in the classroom or not out of place, where that looks like. There might have been a spreadsheet for that. I wanted to bring it all together, like, no, we have this platform, we're going to use this platform so we all have the same data that we're looking at.
Joe, I can tell you how many after-school detentions we had all of last year. We had 11. And I bet when I was in high school, I bet we'd have 5 to 10 people sitting in detention on any given night. Because I talked to our administrator via text message. And I feel like we're losing, we have a major problem in our school district. We have enrollment problems. And I was at a Finlayson planning meeting a couple weeks ago. And one of the concerns I heard from a constituent from the city of Finlayson is that a lot of people have trouble thinking about sending their child from Finlayson Elementary School, which is the crown jewel of our 3 schools, because they have the highest test scores and they're doing so well up there. And a lot of people just can't consider sending their child to Hinckley-Finlayson High School, which has a horrible reputation of behaviors.
Okay,
I've had
Toby.
enough. I can't
Well-
listen to you do this anymore to our school.
We can't talk
I
about
just-
persons
we're not
negatively
talking
in open
about-
forum, we're not gonna do it now.
I didn't mention any names. I'm just saying we
You
have a
said the
reputation.
Hinckley-Finlayson High School.
I said
That's enough.
reputation.
Yeah.
That's not a person. I just mentioned that there's a reputation.
These are our kids.
Yes, and that's why we have to have control in our
And
classrooms.
Have you been into our classrooms to see firsthand, Toby?
Have you been in?
Not
Honestly.
this year.
Okay,
No,
But I
you
have
last
last
How
year.
many
year.
committee meetings have you come to?
That's not the question.
You don't know what's happening in our classrooms, you don't know what our teachers are dealing with, and it's highly disrespectful the way that
I
you're
do
talking.
know, I do.
Okay.
I've heard from some teachers.
No, you need
You're
to
not in
see it.
here.
You need to see what's going on
I can see the
yourself.
data,
You
and I
can't
can-
listen to other people.
Again,
Just-
when you have 0 after-school detentions with
Okay,
this
we
many
need to move on
referrals,
because you are just not.
I would like to have make a point here with our principal, if you don't mind.
I do actually,
You're not
because
his
you're talking
supervisor.
down to him.
No,
It's
I'm
fair.
not.
You're not his direct supervisor either.
Well, I'm just
saying-
expressing my concerns as
I
a
hear
school
you.
board member.
I'm gonna tell you, in my 15 years of experience, after-school detention has been the least effective, because oftentimes you don't have that interaction to what did you do wrong, how could you do better next time. Yes, there's some homework help and homework completion, which is awesome. It's a quiet place to be. Now we don't have transportation, but we heard, I think it was last month even, from Meet and Confer that the resource room is going well, reflection room, I'm sorry. That is where they're getting some of that processing. We can't get the parents here to pick their kids up, so if we assign after school detention, we have to find a way for them to get home, where our transport is out, our drivers are home. We just don't have the same kind of capacity to do that as we did 10 years ago. We've put some other things with New Direction Reflection Room, a second dean at the high school, to do some of that stuff immediately, So hopefully they're learning and not making those same decisions again.
I would think that, don't their parents have to come in and pick them up,
But
Ryan?
they don't. They don't.
Our schools are way
Some
different than
cannot.
what we do in
Some of our
Well-
families cannot.
In that case, I think we should invest in some drivers to take kids home who need to be given a ride home, because the way I'm seeing this number of referrals increase year over year with fewer students, that's very alarming. And we're losing enrollment.
And the other part of that I'll add is, as we've increased some of our student needs in the building, those behaviors have gone up because kids have more needs. So I'll go back to Mr. Lattimore's part here where he has 0 to 1 referrals by 88% of our kids. That's amazing data. We do have some kids, like Mr. Lattimore said, that have a lot of data, 6+ easy. But because of laws, because of individual education plans, because of some of the things that we have to do, we have to address those in the classroom with the teachers during the school day. I would say that's exactly what the bell curve we would want it to look like. It's better than the bell curve. I would argue from last year to this year, it is better, and it does feel better in this building. We do have some kids, that 2%, that struggle, absolutely. And it is a challenge, especially in this building. But overall, our high school and our teachers are doing very, very well when you look at that data.
Can I ask currently, who is responsible for overseeing after-school detention if after-school detention would be assigned to a student?
It would be myself, or like one of the deans did it last year.
Or I did it
Mr.
last year.
Masterson did it.
Okay, so you would potentially be responsible for overseeing after-school detention, but you're the one who would probably be involved with assigning after-school detention?
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't that be seen as a conflict of interest?
It could. I also know that we also, like I said, we use New Direction, which we have OSS, we have ISS, there's other things, reflection room that we use that I just think could be more effective.
I think
maybe
after-school
even with
detention would,
the reflection room, if that's just reviewed and revisited, you know, so everybody's utilizing that's a little bit more, so some of that restorative process kind of happens. Maybe even checking with staff that's up there, you know, if, you know, it feels like it's being utilized to the best of its ability. I don't know, because I'm not there, but maybe just revisiting that a little.
Yep. And it was at the October, I believe we revisited at one of our PLCs about the process of it and what it looks like, and more teachers started to utilize it.
Okay, so since October, there's
Yes.
more that have.
And then there's
utilized
been
that.
more that have appreciated it, because there's, like I said, a restorative piece to it that, you know,
Okay.
they are, general education students are removed for that classroom for the day to limit the disruption. And then they come back the next day, either with the adult up there or a preferred adult, and apologize to the teacher and try and make it better for the next day and moving forward. And they're kids, they're not gonna be perfect.
Joe, who determines which of you 3 or 4 would monitor after-school detention? Is it just on a rotation basis, or flip coin, or on any given day? How do you determine who watches it?
Logistics, who's available.
Okay.
I mean, if I wasn't available, somebody else would be there. So our dean that we had last year, she ran a few of them. Mr. Masterson ran a few of them. I ran a few of them. So it just depends on.
So let's say you had to do it to monitor it. Would you receive any extra pay to monitor after-school detention?
No.
That's the problem I have. There's no incentive for you to assign it. It's a conflict
All
of
right, we're
interest.
gonna move on. We're moving on. I'm looking for a motion to approve subject matters.
I had a question about that. So I was looking through some of the subject matters, and you know, there's some of the phrases in some of there with the English or the history, some of those classes, and talking about things with colonialism, emphasizing rhetoric, narrative reclamation, discussion of propaganda, modern imperialism, global society, how to be a global citizen, different things like that. So with some of those catchphrases, that can kind of be a reference with the CRT and some of that. And with the current administration, we're not supposed to have that in curriculum. And so my concern is about federal funding. Have we heard anything more about federal funding for schools? If any of the CRT or the DEI, any of that is being taught in schools?
No.
We haven't heard anything. So I
anything on
mean,
federal
I think there was something towards colleges, but we haven't heard it.
Nothing yet.
Public schools.
Nope, they froze federal funding for a time this summer, but that's been released.
Okay. Okay. That's just what I wanted to know.
Oh, I don't know about that part, but
Okay.
they, our English department has revamped it to kind of make it, with the new standards for English that came out, trying to get 11th and 12th grade more streamlined into what they're, like, should be. So like 11th grade is, the 21st century American voices and media literacy, and then 12th grade deals with rhetoric, and so, and they're very good about, if they feel there's a conflict or they think something's gonna blow up, they come talk to me
Okay.
and say, what do you think about this?
Okay.
So,
Because that's also the important part, because it doesn't really matter what your perspective is, it
Right.
can go south pretty fast.
yes.
You know, so making sure that it is really neutral,
hmm
especially for staff that are involved.
And that's what they talk about, like taking perspectives from different angles and what that
Okay.
looks like. And so, no, we're not telling kids, here's your perspective and this is what you must write on.
Okay.
So the kids are looking for some of their things that they are interested in, and then going from that direction with, like, consultating with the teacher to see what's going on and what that looks like.
Okay.
We just had that conversation last week, so.
Thank you.
And Joe, I'd like to just give you a little more feedback too. I've heard from teachers that sometimes writing referrals can just seem like a process where it's not worth the time to do it, just because it's like the student gets back in the classroom right away and it just, nothing changes in their classroom, so they just feel like they don't want to even waste their time writing referrals. So I think these numbers are probably understated if the teachers actually wrote a referral every time a student misbehaved. Just a thought.
I think the teachers should go to Mr. Lattimore and have a conversation with him regarding that too.
I haven't heard that from them, like, what's the use or what's the point? I haven't heard any of that, like, individually or from group yet. But as a former teacher, yep, that's something that is always on your mind.
And then one other question, do we still give exit interviews for teachers who leave the school district? Because as a board member, I have not seen an exit interview in quite some time.
Yeah, I answered that for you, yes, and those have been reinstated.
Is there a reason we discontinued those, or could I take a look back at the historical archive?
Because I forgot to send it to you.
All right, we're moving on. I'm looking for a motion to approve subject matters.
I'll move that.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Janelle, one thing come up January, there'll be a slot on teaching and learning committee. Maybe it would be a good opportunity, if you want, you can get on the teaching and learning committee and ask the teachers directly, because they're working with curriculum.
Thank you. All right.
Next up is Mrs. Scullard.
Good evening, happy Deer Day. Enrollment at our elementary schools continue to fluctuate. I guess it's not abnormal, but it just seems like it's a little bit more this year than in the past, but maybe just in the moment it feels like a lot. Some of the challenges that we're faced with when they're moving in, you have no idea where they're coming in at, their fall assessments or benchmarking has already been done. And some correlate with what we have, some don't. trying to get them fitted into what we are teaching. But it's challenges our teachers take on and do it with great respect. So fundraisers, we just finished up our booster fundraiser at both buildings. 4th through 6th graders continue to earn money towards their Wolf Ridge account, which went up another $20 this year, so it's $319. Our 6th grade teachers did a really nice job of working with Wolf Ridge to get a grant across the board, so we'll get that amount to you as soon as we get it finalized with Wolf Ridge, but that will knock the cost down a little bit. Our crossing guards and safety patrol have started their candy bar sales, which helps with any equipment that they might need, as well as their year-end celebrations. I know they just ran the concession stand at the high school craft fair and did very well. They were busy delivering to different vendors all day, so it was kind of cute to see them. They had their little orange and yellow vests on, and they were just delivering away. So that was fun. They did it with pride, so I love that. We talked about Halloween celebrations already. Both PTO in Finlayson as well as the Hinckley Lions put on their celebrations, and I was not able to make it to Finlayson as I had a family event in the cities that day. But the Hinckley one, other than it being rainy and cold, was pretty well attended. We are looking at setting up Q1 reward days. Any student who didn't receive a referral or fell within our attendance guidelines will be able to attend that. We are looking at going down to Rush City to bowl again. They have a few more lanes, and it was well received last year. Our discipline data, I highlighted the 44 because I had 50 there, but it is only 44 kids that have received a referral. Again, I'm pretty much in line with Joe, where I have 89% of my students who have not received a referral so far this year. 23 kids have received only one referral. Kids are kids, right? That's our opportunity to pull them into our reflection room, give them a refresher of what it should look like. 17 students have received anywhere from 2 to 5, and then we've only had 4 kids that have received 6 or more. So we're up a little bit from last year. You can see last year at this time we only had 36 of our kids who had received referrals, with 91% had not got. Again, we're not far off, but FES has only written 1 referral this year. You can see some comparisons from year to year, all the way back from 23 to now. So over the last couple of years, we've made some really good progress. And we have conferences coming up next week, so looking forward to sitting down with our parents, just celebrating some of the successes that we're seeing with our kids, and talking about some of those challenges that we face every day and how we can do better. So that's kind of what my report looks like. Any questions?
Bonnie, how many referrals did the Finlayson Elementary School have?
They have 1.
They're doing a great job up there.
They are. They have 4 kids per grade, or some up to 10. So I would say our staffing ratio is much different than what we're dealing with in Hinckley. I would also say one of the reasons is they don't collect the data that we collect. I'll say part of that is when a kid is sent to out of the classroom, it's an automatic referral, and they're sent to the Hinckley office, right? Finlayson doesn't necessarily have that because I'm not there. So they go, typically if it's a student who is served by an IEP, it goes right to Jason, Mr. Best, and they don't get a referral. So there's some inconsistency on the data collection, just because of some of the staffing, but yes, they are doing a great job, but ratio definitely has something to do with that.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Great, any other questions for Mrs. Skillard? Great, thank you principals,
Thank
thank
you.
you students. We're gonna move on to Becky, a community ed report.
Okay, and my internet just got dropped here, so I can get it on my phone. But you see it up there. It's been a busy fall, and at our last advisory board meeting, Pam was setting as a goal as developing 3 new activities for youth and 1 new activity for adults every month. I know she's just really been working hard on getting new opportunities for our community. So that's our, since September, October, that's where we were at for this year. Put it up a little bit there. There's a doornail here. We're always looking for new instructors, obviously for youth and adult activities. I know our superintendent informed you that we are looking at having the senior dinner on May 13th at the Finlayson Community Center. And, I know there's already been some discussion on that, but that has been set. Gymnastics will start the middle of November. Diamond Dance, it will start in December. The Finlayson DC Lions have donated $2,000 to our senior dinner. And the one thing I did want to spend a little bit of time on is we are looking at a proposed change in our adult swimming fees. Currently, adults over 65 do not pay for swimming during the adult swimming times. And that was a decision that was made a number of years ago, hoping to generate just more swimmers. And I can't say that has exactly happened. Many of our adult swimmers, and we've got the data on the next sheet, but many of our adult swimmers over 65 are not from Hinckley-Finlayson. And so we would like to propose a $3 charge for our adults. Essential charge is $3, OW charge is $5. We would have punch cards available, so obviously we could offer some savings in that way. But the other thing I just wanted to mention too, we are looking into a new pool cover since the current one is not functioning properly. And I won't even ask you to guess how much this costs. I was shocked. Because of this, there's an increase 3 times in the amount of pool chemicals that we are using. Keith and Pam have been discussing this. I've been talking to Keith as well. But his first estimate for the new pool cover was $47,000. Yeah, he got that down to 42. Oh, yeah, amazing. And that's $20,000 more than it was 6 years ago. So he is still working on that. But if you want to go up a little bit there, you can see our swimmers. The H stands for Hinckley, and we've had no adult swimmers from Finlayson, so in our adult swim that have been recorded. So that's why it just says H. But you can see how many are coming from Rush City, Pine City, compared with Hinckley. Many of ours are from out of our district, which, I mean, that's fine, but we really want to serve, obviously, the people in our district. They're the ones that are really supporting our pool. You go up a little bit further, if you don't mind. Thank you. Our total admissions, what we've taken in, 1,702. Our total paid wages is $3,761.42, so that's a loss of $2,059.42. And that does not include the chemicals and the heating of the pool, or that doggone pool cover. So that's just one, it's a small area, but we would like to start to propose a change for our adult swimmers. And that would be, if you are over 65 and you're part of the fitness center, you get into the pool for that fee during open swim times. So, there are some other options there. We would propose this starting December 1st, and we would send out, the rationale for this, what we're looking at in pool costs, and then also availability of punch cards. But thoughts or feedback on that?
So I did receive a concern regarding this. And before I had looked at my agenda, I even had thought about, for Hinckley-Finlayson residents, for there to be a discount or of something. So I do like the punch card idea. Can that only be for Hinckley-Finlayson residents and then the others pay the $3? Because if you already have a membership at the fitness center or the walking track, or you get in the pool for free
During open swim times. During
Okay.
open swim times, right. Yeah, go ahead, Jody.
So this is for like morning aerobics, and do you pay extra for the aerobics class?
No,
No, those people don't.
no.
Okay.
And the same with our, we have 4 adult after-school swims.
So this really is a pretty good compromise.
Yeah, I think so. And we did discuss, I really hear what you're saying. We did discuss, okay, say for our district, you wouldn't pay as much.
Yes.
And I just need to make sure that we can just do that too, because it's almost kind of, we're supposed to be open, we give priority to our district if we're full. But I would just need to make sure we can do that. But the other issue that was brought up when we thought about that is some people don't even know. Am I in the Hinckley school district? I don't know. It just creates kind of a little bit more of a hassle for the pool attendant to figure
Because
out.
they don't get in free. Senior citizen, I mean, I know they get into our games for free, but they don't get into the fitness center
Right.
or the walking track for free.
Right.
So could it be like maybe even a discount if you did all 3? Or for Hinckley-Finlayson residents?
Could be.
But they can use the pool anytime it's open, not just during open swim.
Oh, right.
So they could just buy a fitness center membership and get in. I mean, what is it now a month?
It's $5.
No.
If you're,
For the fitness center. That's a walking track.
no, for the fitness center, if you are over 65, it's $60 a year. It's $60 a year, or, if you want to pay monthly, or if you get a little bit of a break if you pay annually. But I believe in our agreement, in our fitness center agreement, it states it's during open swim times.
I think it's just when I thought it was when the pool was open.
Yeah.
Not during open, like, I don't know how to explain it.
I-
Whenever the pool is open.
That you could get in,
Yeah.
yeah. And I know we have our aerobics class during adult open swim time too, so I'll double check on that. Because I was just looking over the agreement myself, and it does say during open swim times. I don't know why it couldn't be during adult swim times, And then you got,
I mean, at least give the advantage back to Hinckley-Finlayson, to our
Exactly.
taxpayers.
Exactly.
If that's the case.
Yeah.
Maybe you could let us know.
I will do that. I will do that before we make that change. Yeah.
Okay.
That's good feedback.
Does anybody else have any questions for Becky?
Becky, do you by chance have any cost figures for just to keep the pool running with chemicals, heating,
Yes.
maintenance?
Yeah, and we can provide that. I don't want this to go on record.
Oh, too late.
Yeah, and I don't mind it. This is just a rough estimate, but I think it's close to 50,000 a year when you add up. Is that seem?
Yeah, I thought 40 to 50.
40 to
It
50.
is the biggest reason why the general fund helps supplement community ed is because of the pool.
Because in many districts, and I'll just say, many districts close to us, the general fund runs the pool. Community ed is ours paid for it, which I think is not an inappropriate fit, but then the general fund has often reimbursed, to keep, because that really is what puts community ed in zero.
Sure.
And I would say, yeah, probably 40 to 50, and I don't know if that includes wages or not too, but it's amazing how much the chemicals, the electricity, the gas, and I know somebody had said to Pam's just doing a wonderful job on this, really trying to keep track of bottom line, but somebody said, well, could you ask your pool coordinator, about the pool, yeah, I think they said pool coordinator, pool, who, your pool maintenance person. we don't have a pool maintenance person. You know, this is just another thing that is on our maintenance staff, and it's a big piece of it.
Keith is licensed for it, but
He is
it's part,
licensed
but it's
for it.
part of his job, right? It's-
Right.
It's not his sole job.
Right, it's a big piece of it, you know, so, and he's done a really nice job with it,
Just good to hear.
so. But
And
we'll
If the
look
board
into,
wants that, I could pull last year's numbers.
yeah, if you could, that'd be great. The gas, the electric,
I don't think our school district should have to, our taxpayers should support other schools coming here, so I wouldn't mind seeing a charge. If we get a better discount for local, if that's legal, that'd be fine, but
yeah,
the way it looks, it's a lot of out-of-towners.
it is a lot of overtimes.
Well, if it's already included in, if you buy a fitness center pass,
It does say membership gives access to fitness center, walking track, and Hinckley pool during public swim times.
so that's
So
open
it's
swim.
public.
Yeah,
Or is that
It's all public.
aerobics then?
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, it's
if you
public.
look, did you look in the agreement part of it?
Yeah.
Did it say just open?
It just says public.
Okay, public, yeah, okay.
Right.
So,
We'll figure that
Alright,
out.
yeah.
And then do you, cause we'd like to try it by December 1st, should we bring this to the December board meeting? Would that be the most appropriate, or, cause we could say December 15th too, or January
Yeah, our
1st.
December meeting is like the 8th or 9th.
Okay, and then you can present it, and then we'll clarify that piece of it too, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Becky. Next up is board committees. Would anybody like to report on their board committee for the month? Not?
I attended the legislative forum for SCRED. It was interesting to meet with our representatives and discuss things that are important for special education. It was a good night, so. Yeah.
And then I attended the Pine County leadership meeting, and they talked, a lot of it was about, the broadband. And they talked about the Pine County emergency and also the paid leave with the legislative changes that are coming up, so. There's actually a lot of discussion, so. I don't remember when they were looking at having a new broadband. It's still gonna be a while, but they were really looking at our broadband.
Anybody else? All right, we'll move on to communications.
Done.
Next up is budget and unfinished business.
So in November, which you guys just approved, the high school requests possible classes that will be offered for next year, so we've done that. Our business manager and I are very much reviewing the levy as we head to December. The business manager, it's not in here, but she's also working on our audit right now, so those are some big things that are happening in my office. You can see our enrollment did go up a few from last month, so as of November 1st, we were at 821 across the district, with ELC being up to 25. A lot of those 25 are coming from the high school, but we are pretty close to what we predicted as far as the budget's concerned, down of course from last year, but we knew that was going to happen just based on how many students, resident students, things like that. Then I pulled some data as we get ready for next month regarding our levy and just some more data to consider. I put our fund balance policy in there, but the part I wanted to talk about is the comparisons between our district and some others. I'll start, I get data from Region 6, which is basically from East Central out to Becker. So a lot of these school districts head out west. But I'll start with, this is comparing fund balance as of The last audit would have been the 23-24 school year, because every school district's working on last year's audit. So it is a little outdated data, but you can see based on our border and SCRED districts that we rank the highest fund balance, and again, this is as of 2 years ago per student. So if you take what was in our fund balance, divide by our population, that's what our fund balance is. So it's better than we have policy for, but you can see how we compare to our border and SCRED districts. The next tab is similar size districts, where again, we are at the top of that. And then when you compare all those Region 6 numbers, we were second. So we have more fund balance than we had planned, which we learned about last year when we did the audit. We have spent some of that down. I'll have updated audit numbers probably at January's meeting. It sounds like the auditor's cleaning things up with Bridget Knudsen end of November, so I doubt we'll have all those reports for the December meeting. But I'll be able to get you our accurate data at the January board meeting. From there, and I'll take questions. I did put some levy options for the board to consider, and these aren't the only things we could consider, but typically I'd share at least what we've historically had for options and take any feedback if you want Ehlers and I to look at anything different before December's meeting. If we approve the max, which is this very last column, you can see that's about $2,562,331, which is a 7.71% decrease from what the board approved last year in December. So even if we approve the max next month, it is going to be a reduction of between 7 and 8% for our taxpayers. Typically, we've looked at a couple of options. First option is just to levy the max. The other areas that we've historically looked at under levying would be in reemployment insurance. So the second option takes $10,000 off for that. And the third option takes that $10,000 and then 5 more for safe schools. If I get an opinion, I would rather not take money away from safe schools, as we anticipate our SRO costs to go up, and that is the funding source we use for our SRO. The reemployment insurance is what happens during the school year from September to May, not summer unemployment insurance. That's a totally different can of worms. But those are some options that this district has looked at in the past. If there's other things you want me to look at, I can certainly do that. And then the kind of rest of this is the exact same data I shared last month. Not much has changed. Nothing has changed. As a matter of fact, with these numbers, we're still looking at, if we do a max, of a decrease for taxpayers of 7.7%. And then the last part I have here before I'll stop and take questions. We had seen this in September where we compared the tax impact on a $125,000 home. I did have Ehlers pull data based on a $150,000 home. If you want to see the next at 175, I can have them do that when they do truth and taxation next month. But you can see this one's based on a $150,000 home. I only had them pull 2025. We still are doing fairly well compared to the schools around us as far as tax impact for our community. With that, are there questions on anything in this first part of budget calendar?
Brian, could we do have Ehlers run the numbers not just at 150,000, but could they just use it on the median home price in Pine County, whatever that happens to be?
I will ask them if they can do that.
Thank you.
And I'll let the board know if they can or can't.
And then could you also explain why the max levy is 7.7% lower this year than last year?
All those numbers are tied to our enrollment. So as our enrollment goes down, every funding area decreases.
So it's purely tied to enrollment, not people moving out of the school district per se?
No. They factor residents and what your projected enrollment would be based on previous trends with open enrollment, but it is primarily based on your residents. We have less people living in our school district, and that's how all those numbers are based.
But the main driver is enrollment then?
100%.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, we're gonna go to policy reapproval. We have 4.
Yep, all 4 of these were just statute changes. This is the last month of statute changes for reapproval.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the policy stated? Does anybody want one pulled to vote separate? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve policy 624, online instruction, policy 707, transportation of public school students, policy 709, student transportation safety policy, and policy 806, crisis management.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is Jake Pride. Does anybody have anything to add to Jake Pride?
Very healthy list this month.
Haley was all conference and cross country behind me.
Yes. Hands up there.
Maybe add the G touring in number 5.
And number 5 to
Yep.
Haley?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I'll
Just
still
get that
get
G
it
in
right.
there.
I got you, Haley.
Oh,
I'll put it in the
yeah.
right spot.
Thanks.
Football, I think they have their banquet this week, so that's why football's not up there yet for all conference, so we'll have football next month. Sorry, Haley, for spelling your name wrong.
And do we have the donation from the ECC? Okay, that's.
It's later in the agenda, yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up is our school year calendar.
So I have started with surveying staff. Last week I put out a survey to the community to gather some feedback on next year's calendar. Kind of weird to think about in November, but we are starting to think about that. So staff have responded. Community has until this Friday. One common theme from both staff and community is they would like to see early release not happen. So I am currently working on a draft where we would not have early release days next year. As I started working on that, it is posing a little bit of a problem. Just trying to hit, typically we like to be done in that first week-ish of June, but with where Labor Day starts, which is late next year, it's the second week of September, where Christmas falls is like at the end of the week, so it's not matching up perfectly as of this afternoon, but we'll keep working on that. But I'm just wondering, my goal is to have 171 student days again. The state minimum is 165. My goal again is to get to that 171, and then teacher days we have to get to 182. So those are kind of the constraints with the federal holidays, things like that. I don't anticipate, well, it's possible. I may have a first draft for the board to look at in December. But for sure in January, we'll have some drafts to look at as we go. But looking if the board has any feedback at this time that you'd like the calendar committee and I to consider.
Could you also consider full day of school for grades K through 12? Not just
On the first day of school.
on the first day of school.
The admin team will talk about that.
Thank you.
I think we should consider starting before Labor Day, as late as it is this year. And one of the reasons North Branch is considering it might help our test score, because the kids would have a possibly extra week of school before testing.
My plan for staff community, I communicated a little cleaner. Staff, I told them Labor Day, that we could start before Labor Day, but I didn't say Labor Day was so late. I wonder if staff feedback would change on that, but just based on, do you want to start before Labor Day, it was resounding no. In communities, about 60% no, 40% yes, but I would like to survey staff on that question again, just knowing when Labor Day is, if that changes opinions.
I just think it's okay if we go into the second week of June. It's okay. Everybody will survive if we go into the second week of June.
True. So more to come on that.
So Labor Day is September 7th then, next year?
8th, I think. 7th, I think you're right, the 7th, and then we would start the 8th, yeah.
You have a survey out to community right now?
Currently, yeah. I asked if they could get me feedback by this Friday.
And did you include in there about Labor Day being late?
Like I did for
Okay.
community.
Okay.
So if people want to voice, they need to go fill out that survey?
It's on Facebook, and Remind is that, I know that doesn't hit everybody, but hard to put a survey in the newspaper. So it's on Facebook and Remind. And I can send it again this week,
When does it close?
this Friday.
And is it too late to get something in the paper saying there's a survey to fill out?
For this week, probably. I think we had to have it by noon today.
All right, we will move on to policy review for first reads for next month. Does anybody have any questions currently regarding the 4 policies stated?
These are just going through our rotation. I will say, when I was listening to the school board forum, yep, section 504 is 4 years out, so that one, which was on the calendar for this year, but that one is on this month where that was the one, I think one of the candidates mentioned that Rob Prater and Sandy Korf's name were still on there, so that is being updated. But as we go now through June, these are us reviewing our policies without state telling us we have to make changes.
If there are no other questions regarding the policies, we are going to move on to canvassing the 2025 school board election results.
So I have the abstract of the election, which I have summarized mostly in the board report. I can go into it if you'd like. I will ask the board if this is approved tonight, before each of you go home, I would need you to sign off on this abstract of election. But in there, it tells you our top 4 vote getters of 381, 376, 320, and 307. And you can see who those were in the chart here. I have the votes broke down by Hinckley-Finlayson and absentee. Total ballots cast, we had 764 in the district, 557 in Hinckley, 120 in Finlayson, and 87 absentee voters. The absentee, the way it was sent to me, was not broken down by Finlayson and Hinckley, just total absentee for our district. And this bottom document just shows some data, just so you can kind of see the history of when we've had elections, things like that, board member history, some remodeling. The one thing the county did not get me, and their new auditor is now on vacation, is how many registered voters we had on election day. So I don't have that number. I will ask that when the auditor comes back. But it just kind of tells you what pupil weighs. Basically, that's how much we get or how much each student counts as far as funding. Free and reduced lunch percentages, our district-wide attendance, and then some more data about the district. But are there any questions, comments about anything regarding the school board election or the abstract that was presented?
What was the cost to our school district to conduct this election?
I don't know that. I can get that for the board.
And one other question I have is there any financial benefit to have our election during even years?
There'd be a big financial benefit as we'd share the cost with the county and any other school district that does that. We wouldn't have to have it on site. Historically, the school board has elected to keep it in odd years because then we know, ideally, we're hoping to get people who are tuned into the school. certainly in a general election, we're gonna get more people, absolutely, but they're not always tied into what's happening in the schools. So that is certainly something the board can consider. I had one community member ask me, and I said, we usually talk about it at this time every couple of years, if the board wants to change that. But yes, it would have a financial cost. I don't, benefit to do that. I don't know what the cost is right here tonight.
So another benefit would be is voters would have more locations, more convenient locations to vote at. It just wouldn't be the two.
It'd be just like a general election, like if you're voting for governor or president, it'd be just like you see on those kind of election nights. It would not be at either of our school.
And is there any kind of I mean, I know you mentioned there's this theory that maybe if we keep it on odd years, people are more focused and on voting for school board candidates, and that they would be less focused on voting for school board candidates if it were even years. So it's almost like even years, it means that the votes are less, people are less informed or less, they're just filling it out just because it's there.
Sometimes. I guess I wouldn't know for school board. Our district, at least since I've been here, has always done it odd years, so.
I guess my question is what polling or what scientific study would suggest that an even year would mean people are less interested?
MSBA says that. I do know that because I've been on a couple chair chats and they've discussed the odd year, what you have people that are more invested in your school voting because it's just the school board.
Is that something they have published? If so, I'd like to see it.
I can certainly look.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you, Jody.
Or you could email Gary Lee. He answers every email, but I can look.
But I think it'd be great to reduce our costs. We have financial issues with enrollment decline, and I would like to look at every possible way to save some money for the school district. And make it more convenient for voters to vote. They don't have to drive so far.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve the election information that's been presented.
I'll move that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Again, please make sure you all stop and sign this sheet. I'll have it here by my computer before you go.
Next up is our expenditures for the month.
Just an update again on where.
Through the year, sorry.
Yep, through the year. Sorry for going too fast. You can see total, we're at about 34.16 of the budget year, and we've spent about 23.44%. I do anticipate, if the board approves the contract, that coming a little closer together with the teachers. But overall, we're right kind of where we were hoping to be and projected to be. And then you can see the breakdown of each of our 6 funding sources as well.
Does anybody have any questions regarding our expenditures so far this year? Then we're gonna move on to a resolution to accept donated funds. The first one.
First one, well, that's big, is from the Hinckley Lions for $2,000 to help with the German Club. So looking for approval to accept that money from the Hinckley Lions.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is the next resolution to accept donated funds, letter G.
This is also from the Hinckley Lions to help with costs for communication boards at the elementary playground at HES for a total of $300.
Looking for a motion to accept the donated funds.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up is letter H, resolution to accept donated funds.
Another one from Hinckley Lions, this time in the amount of $400 to help with some signage in one teacher's classroom at Hinckley Elementary.
Looking for a motion to accept the donated funds.
No.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is letter I.
This is the one Becky talked about in her report, resolution from the Finlayson Lions for $2,000 towards the senior dinner.
Okay, for a motion to accept the funds.
I'll move that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next up is nay.
We're on J now.
We're on J.
This one's from Northview Bank in the amount of $250 to go towards the fall play.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is letter K.
Last one, this one is from Petrie's in the amount of $100 towards the fall play.
Looking for a motion?
Where does it say?
On the agenda, it says teacher conference.
Oh, the fall play. Thank you.
It doesn't go above there.
No. Darn. Okay.
So letter K, looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is our daycare insurance.
As the board knows, we are going to be opening a daycare hopefully soon, but to have that, we need to insure the daycare. So I have two quotes for that. I'm recommending option one. Option one, the quote to cover the daycare is $3,142. The second quote was $5,048. Reason I'll tell you why. Option one is less because it has less coverage for if there was a claim for sexual or physical abuse. As we met with our insurance, as Sarah Ranger, Bridget Knudsen, and I talked, we thought we'd recommend option one. Just historically, we have not had a lot of those claims in our district in any program, so thought we could go with option one, and if we needed to adjust it later, we could. But recommending option one that cover our daycare program with insurance.
I'm looking for a motion to accept option one for daycare.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
We'll do roll call for Dave. Leo?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Toby?
No.
Angela? Joey, yes. Motion passes 6-1. Next up is our master agreement.
I'm recommending approval as presented of the contract for 2025 to 2027 between the district and HFEA, which is the teachers union. I have a red line version of the changes that were tentatively agreed upon during negotiations. And then the second link is what the clean contract would look like. Our committee members were Angela, Jody, and Dave. And then I, so if there are questions, the three of us can help answer. But otherwise, I am recommending that contract as presented.
I have a question. Does that contract have any provision, or what would the pay be for a staff member assigned to watch after-school detention as a monitor?
There's nothing in there for that.
So if this is approved, that means faculty could not and would not be assigned to monitor after-school detention?
Correct.
So that means after-school detention has to be monitored by either yourself, principal, or the dean?
Correct.
Okay. I'm not happy about that.
Does anybody have any other questions regarding the master agreement? There's a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Does the board feel like we should put a provision in this contract or negotiate a provision that allows staff to be assigned to monitor after-school detention?
I have a question, Toby. It seems like anything else that we're discussing, like you bring up the fund balance and we don't have any money and we're in dire straits for spending any money. But you're proposing to put in money to pay staff for this. But I'm only assuming that you didn't approve the insurance for the daycare because it's gonna cost us money. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Philosophically, while there may be a need for daycare in our community, I don't feel it's our school district's responsibility to provide that service. We've got bigger problems to deal with, like transportation, just as an example for tonight.
I get that. I'm just saying it just seems like everything else that we talk about or bring forward, like you just say no because you're worried about, in your words, the financial situation of our district, but.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk about that. I'd like to answer your question. So if we have 171 student days, I'm sorry, I'm just using a calculator. 171 student days for 2 hours, 342 hours we'd have to pay somebody. Let's say we pay somebody $45 an hour, I don't know, times 45, 15,390. If each student is about 10,000, give or take, it's like 1.5 students.
Well, we spent a lot of time during the negotiation, and this is what we felt we came to an agreement on. So, hence the reason there's a motion and a second.
And the board couldn't, I mean, the board could decide as a board it would want to do that. Doesn't mean it would be in the contract. We'd have to open back up negotiations with the teachers to do that.
There'd be no leverage if you do it that way.
The teachers have already voted
Correct.
on the contract.
Well, we could say we don't agree to it, vote it down, and then renegotiate
No,
it.
you could say you don't agree to it.
The school board doesn't have to approve this.
Correct, but there's a motion and a second, so.
I'm just bringing up a valid reason why I feel like we should maybe reconsider approving this, because behaviors is the root of our enrollment problem, I believe. And if we don't have a robust after-school detention, we're in dire straits.
I guess I trust our administration, who we hire as a board, to take care of the day-to-day operations. And I trust Joe and our dean students, I trust Brian. I don't think we should be fine-tuning everything. I don't think that's part of our responsibility.
I feel we're struggling. We're down 20%. Our neighbors are only down 3.6%. Moore's up 3%, but we're down 20.1% in the last 3 years. We're doing something wrong.
We are Hinckley-Finlayson, we are not our neighbors. That's all I'm gonna say.
No.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Let's do roll call. Leo?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
David? Toby?
No.
Angela?
Yes.
Jody, yes. It's hard not to be offended as a member of the negotiations that spent hours and hours and hours. And we had a really good negotiation with our teachers. And then to just say no because of that.
It's a big, big that.
But it's been discussed that looking at other restorative practices have been more beneficial than after school detention.
I feel
That's kind of where I look at it, is that, you know, back when I was in school, that might have worked, but it might not work now because society and kids, different things change. And if it's not working with the after-school detention, I would look at other options, and that's what's being done.
Toby, one of the things you need to consider with the cost of after-school suspension is the transportation home.
What's the cost of losing one student because the
75.
reputation that our school has?
No, you didn't, I'm just saying your figures are not complete.
What's that, Angela?
You're always right. You just have nothing positive to say. I just don't, I can't.
I'm trying to solve problems, and you
Yeah,
can only
but you're
solve problems
constant.
by bringing up a problem.
But you don't have solutions to problems.
I do. After-school detention, a nice,
Are you-
robust after-school detention. That's where a child can reflect.
Toby, and
on
you
their
need
bad
to get
behavior.
into our schools and see what it is like. Quit taking everybody
Okay.
else's opinion. Get into our buildings.
I will
Get
get
into
in.
classroom. When can he come see? Into your classrooms?
Can I come
Anytime?
tomorrow? Can I come tomorrow?
If you want to, yeah.
If I'm not assigned work, if I don't have to work, I'll be here tomorrow.
Okay, good, thank you. And
So
then
how
you
does,
report
how's that
back to
gonna
us.
work? Can I just pick any class I want?
Come in the office in the morning and we'll figure out, because there's a few that have already said yes, that they would be willing to like have school board members come in.
And either
So we could
Mr.
check,
Lattimore or I
we could
will
check
be
with
you.
them, so.
And
But-
Mr. Lattimore or I will be with you.
But I've heard, I don't have to be here to know there's a problem, and I know there's a problem inside the walls of this building. And it's not bashing to just acknowledge the problem, because you can't solve the problem if you don't first acknowledge the problem.
Toby, are you educated on education? Are you a principal? Are you a superintendent?
No. But I've gone through school in here. I know what a successful school is. I can see our neighbors.
What year did you graduate? Okay, that was, for me, it was many years ago. Like, we can't compare it to even 20 years ago. It is so different
Yeah,
now.
but sometimes, some things never change.
Okay, you are so
You're
set
living in a
on what
bubble.
you're thinking that you're not even gonna hear. Even if you went into the school tomorrow, you're not going to see other things. You need to keep your mind open. You can't be so shut down.
I've been open for the last 3.5
my
years, and I've
gosh.
seen our enrollment melt like an ice cube.
Oh my good. Well, maybe you're the problem.
No, I'm
We've
not.
lost it since you've been on the board.
I'm
Alright,
not-
we're
Since
gonna
you've been
move
on the
on.
board, our enrollment
We're
has went
moving-
down. Maybe you're
we're
the
moving
problem.
on.
Angela,
moving on.
I'm not part of the
So-
majority that voted in these policies that
Oh
are
my
losing
gosh.
policies.
We review them every 3 years. You have reviewed every
But
single
we're gonna,
policy we have.
we're gonna respect our
reviewed every
votes.
single one.
We're respecting our votes because that is in the code of ethics. We all get our votes. We're moving on to transportation discussions.
Two.
Oh gosh, I need a break.
Transportation. What would you like to speak about, Toby, during transportation discussion? It was your motion.
Yes, so we did receive a letter from the Minnesota State Patrol.
Give us
since our
solutions.
Since our last regular school board meeting. And the one statement, the one sentence that really jumps out at me is the purpose of this letter is to notify you as the superintendent of the Hinckley-Finlayson schools, this is addressed to Mr. Masterson, that inspection results for your district are unacceptable and your immediate corrective action is required to ensure the children entrusted to you are transported in the safest possible vehicle at all times. So my first question is, and the statistic says that we had 22 inspections. There were 10 failures, that means 12 buses passed. And Brian, are these all school buses or are some of these type 3 vehicles?
Some of them are type 3 as well.
How many were buses that were inspected?
Well, every bus was inspected, but
How many buses do we have?
16 buses.
And how many of those 16 passed the inspection? Or
I have not dove into the data that way. I'd have to redo that. You have it individually. I have not done the math on percentage of buses versus percentage type 3.
Toby, can I just say something? I seconded your motion, but I think that the administration is working on, I realize there's a problem, but I think the administration has some solutions to the problem that I don't know if you're aware of, correcting some of these problems.
I hope so,
Okay,
because the state patrol said that these actions need to be corrected immediately. It says immediate corrective action. Those are the words of the state patrol. Inspection results for your district are unacceptable and your immediate corrective action is required. So Brian, have we taken any immediate corrective action? And if
Yes.
so, what steps have we taken?
He gave us an update on all of this.
I just want to know
Well,
specifics.
Some specifics can't be discussed at an open meeting.
Sakes, Toby.
Well,
Like,
how about
read
those
your
that
stuff.
can?
He goes through all the time and sends you an update every week, and you ask the same questions on something he has given you all of that information on in every single update. And some of it can't be because it's all, you can't bring this stuff up at an open meeting. Like,
This
just
you can,
go
this
educate
absolutely you
yourself.
can bring up at an
No,
open
you
meeting.
cannot.
Look at
No.
your board update and read it, and you will see why we can't talk about it right now.
Oh,
Have
hold
you
on.
read your updates?
Okay.
Do you read your updates
I
from
do.
Brian? Do you read them?
Then you
Or do
would
you
know
just
the things
open
that are
them?
being worked on
So
right
we
now
can't
behind
discuss
the
this
scenes.
letter from the state patrol?
Absolutely, and I assure you.
You didn't
that I
ask
care
people
more
to
about
discuss that.
than-
You asked what measures were done. No.
That's what I would like to know. What have
It's
we
in
done?
your update from last Friday.
Let Brian answer, please.
No. Okay.
We're not talking about staff or anything
I'm not.
in the public.
I'm.
Then this
I don't
can't
wanna-
be answered. Read your update.
I don't want to hear anything about staff, and I have read the update.
Okay.
Okay, we have children's lives at stake.
I
Children in the morning are
understand that,
riding the school
Toby.
bus.
We all understand that.
I, as a school board member, want to know what actions are we taking specifically, Brian?
Read your
Go back and
update.
read your update.
No, I'm
from
not, I'm
Friday.
asking Brian.
Brian, please tell him to read his update. Sorry, I can't anymore. This
First,
is-
I'll answer. We have one vehicle left to get repaired and we're waiting on parts. So of those 10 failures, that's been first and foremost, is getting our fleet back on the road. We are doing some other internal things that I won't go into all those details, but I'll assure you that corrective action is taking place. But first and foremost was getting these things that we didn't do so well on corrected.
So with those 10 buses, and I don't even know how many of those 10 that failed are school buses, but did we have any issues picking up our kids or dropping them off after that annual inspection by the state patrol?
No, we had enough repaired that we were able to transport our kids home. I think we were 2 minutes late that afternoon, but otherwise we got kids home on time and we've ran kids to and from school on time every day since.
So when the bus is repaired, they can remove that sticker and put it in the first aid kit?
The driver and mechanic sign off that it was repaired. It gets put in the bus until DOT comes back, which is next week. DOT will re-inspect. If it meets the standard that it should, then DOT will put the sticker on the vehicle.
So when we take corrective action on our own before the re-inspection, that sticker is removed, right? Am I understanding it
Yes, I
correctly?
don't know if that
The
sticker is
sticker
still
can't be
on,
removed until
till
DOT
DOT
comes
does it.
back.
But we can
DOT
have
has
the
to remove
fix in the bus. So if that vehicle was pulled over, it is documented that it has been repaired.
So they can drive it with the sticker, it just has to have the corrective action.
Correct.
And then how does a bus driver report a mechanical problem? Does each bus have a maintenance logbook?
Yeah, every bus every day has to do a pre-trip inspection, and from there they communicate to the mechanic.
Is there an actual logbook in the?
Yes,
And then the bus driver would just alert the maintenance when they get into town that there's a
correct.
write-up?
Or if something's happening that needs immediate attention, they use their radios, and we address it based on need from there.
And then can I ask how many total buses do we have in our fleet this year?
16 today? 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 16 with one arriving any day.
And I see the number of inspections last year was 29, but this year was only 22. What's the difference of the 7?
We got rid of some buses last year. There's some that we have used for just parts, so they don't need to be inspected, because they're not gonna go out on the road.
Okay. And then what specific steps did you take in 2022 to 2024 to address rising out-of-service rates from 28% to 54% after receiving the prior inspection reports? And why did these efforts fail to prevent the 45% rate this time around in 2025?
I'd have to go back and I can't remember last week, let alone 2022, so I'll get you that data.
Brian, could I make a recommendation? You mentioned that we would be getting the new bus any day. Maybe now's not the time, but I think that we should maybe keep that new bus for, I don't know if we could delegate that new bus for trips. Just so that we have something reliable that is going out of town. It's representing the district well because it's nice. Our kids are getting there safe. Our drivers are getting there safe. And I would just, I know we have multiple trips going out sometimes each day, but like just whoever has the longest trip, even if it's just for the time being, just knowing that a new bus would maybe hopefully have less issues because we've had some things happen. So that's just a recommendation I have. Just maybe for now at least keep that new bus as a trip bus. So
that sounds like a great idea.
Is it gas or diesel?
Gas.
Okay. Just gets cold.
Maybe just getting the hitch put on it so it can haul the trailer, or so it could be used for any trip. That seems to be the longest.
We're also working on finally getting we've got a quote. We're working with the vendor to lower it a little bit, but a previously used bus has 45,000 miles, if I check my notes right, to replace the one that burned last year. So we're trying to get that price closer to what insurance gave us. We're almost there.
And then Brian, how often does each bus receive a routine mechanical inspection from a mechanic with preventative maintenance?
How often I'll have to get that. I know all summer that's happened. How often from here, what Bruce and I have talked about is if we've got 22 vehicles, one each day is scheduled and that rotation happens throughout the month. Certainly things are going to come up that are not preventative, but that's the system that we have in place, or we're working to get in place better.
And it should be done every time they get like an oil change.
Oil change, yeah.
And then I take it we've reached out to Mora or other external sources to try and help.
Bruce is going to work with me tomorrow.
And then are you aware or do you know of any specific advice that we've received and have been implemented since we received this letter?
I think we are going to go through our pre-trip inspections as a department once we get through DOT inspections.
And then my last question is, should the board consider hiring a third-party vendor for maintenance service until our in-house maintenance program is revamped?
Are you asking my opinion on that?
I'm just asking the board in general.
I'll say we have been utilizing some other people to help in the interim. We've had some community members who have said they would come help as we need, and we have been utilizing that.
Does the board feel we should reach out to a third-party vendor while we try and straighten out our in-house maintenance, or?
I think it's something we should keep our minds open to.
No, not at this time.
Right now, like I said, we believe we have all repairs made. except for we're waiting on a part for one of the type 3. Could be here tomorrow, could be here this week. If it's not here by next Monday, it just won't get re-inspected next Monday, but everything has been repaired and we should be good to go next Monday as of right now.
I would be curious to know, how do our neighboring school districts, how do they fare on their bus inspections?
Well, some of them are,
4.0.
yeah, they're going with 4.0. I mean, that's why we did that bid. Wasn't that last year?
2 years
2
ago.
years ago. So, I mean, I thought it was,
Pine
This-
City and East Central have 4.0, Mora owns their own.
yeah, so, I mean, that's always something, you know, we needed to consider, but, I mean, we talked about that not long ago, with doing 4.0. Some of these questions that you had, so Mr. Masterson was here at 6 o'clock. Did you ever reach out to him about some of the questions prior to this meeting?
I feel these questions should be asked during a board meeting so we can
Okay.
discuss it as a board in open forum, in an open meeting here. And the public can kind of have an idea of what's happening in our school district. How
But
many,
then, but
I
some of
also
the
think it
questions
could have
that
been
you asked,
explained.
but some of the questions you ask, you know, if you don't know ahead of time to be able to provide you with that data, that would be helpful to know, because you're asking for data. That's why I'm asking, is if those questions were asked ahead of time, then that data could be provided. If you feel that it needs to be discussed openly, okay, that's okay. But, that's just, actually just being respectful, so that that data and that information can be provided,
Well,
so people are prepared.
some of these questions, you know, it's just pretty straightforward. What have we done since we received this letter to ensure the safety of our kids?
I think with that, maybe it's just like sensitive at this point in time. So that's why we just, you know, read your update and then you'll get, like, you know what that sensitive, I mean, you have, I'm sure you have, but some things just can't be discussed yet.
These are
But
things
when
I
they-
feel we should discuss.
In time, it will all come out in time,
Okay.
that's all.
Brian, can I ask, how many mechanics do we have?
1.
Do you feel that's an adequate number of mechanics for how many buses?
Yes,
16 buses?
yes.
And if a mechanic is sick, shouldn't we have like maybe a part-time mechanic in addition to a full-time mechanic?
The drivers, Bruce Beckman has quite a bit of skill in that as well, and the drivers have some skill, and we have some local people who, like I said, are willing to help if we come into a situation where we need that.
And this letter also says the Hinckley-Finlayson Public School District has an average out-of-service rate over the past 5 years of 44%. That's a high fail rate. I think we need to make some changes internally, try and revamp it.
Okay, we've had enough discussion regarding the letter. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Jody, could I make one brief clarification
Yes.
before you adjourn? I just wanted to say, when I said the $50,000 for the pool, some of that, as I look at my numbers, some of that does include wages, but we'll parse out those numbers, the business office and Brian and I for the next meeting. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.